saying that Tyler Perry is on this case, and I hope he brings justice home. They are saying that Tyler Perry, I know he put money up to find out who unalive Nolan Wells. It's supposed to be a lot of people reaching out to Tyler Perry to give more information to him and Ben. I don't know if they told him, but I came across this video and they said that Tyler Perry is going to reveal who unalive Nolan Wells. I don't know if everything is true in here, but I think we need to give it a look. We need to turn every stone over. Everything, we need to see what's going on here. So let's watch, let's
share breaking news in regards to Nolan Wells, as audio from a toll call made by his friends around 3 p.m. on July 4th, according to NBC News, would be
10 days after 18-year-old Nolan Wells was found dead on the shores of Mississippi's Horn Island, his family and their lawyers having their first face-to-face meeting with the local district attorney.
We did not get...
In just a few short hours on the 4th of July, what was supposed to be a hangout among best friends turned into one of the most shocking mysteries in Mississippi. 4 people boarded a boat heading to Horn Island. But as the sun went down, only 3 returned. What keeps the public questioning everything isn't just the fact that Nolan Wells vanished, but what happened afterward. Why didn't anyone call the police right away? Why was the Coast Guard not contacted until 11 p.m.? And what makes this even more chilling is the final audio recording that reportedly captured Nolan shouting, "Give me my phone back." As the public outcry for justice intensifies, Tyler Perry has reportedly been closely following the case, calling for a transparent investigation. Was this all just a tragic series of coincidences? That is exactly what we are going to break down right now. The fateful 4th of July trip. Paradise turns to hell. July 4th, Independence Day. While millions of families across the country were getting ready for barbecues, fireworks, and laughter in Mississippi, 17-year-old Nolan Wells was excited for an outdoor adventure. He was heading out with 3 people guys he had always called his best friends, people he trusted enough to put his safety in their hands. The destination was Horn Island, a secluded, completely isolated barrier island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. To get there, the group had to go by boat. Just picture the scene, the ocean breeze blowing the engine cutting through the waves, and 4 young, energetic guys heading out to sea. Nolan surely thought this was going to be a summer memory he'd never forget, but he had no idea it would be a one-way trip. Later that day, the boat returned to the mainland. The engine was still running, the hull still hitting the shore. But on deck, only 3 people remained. Nolan Wells was gone. The 17-year-old, with a bright future ahead of him, was left behind in the vast open waters, stranded on a wild island. And from this moment, a series of heartless actions by the 3 survivors began to unfold. There is an unwritten rule in friendship. If your friend is in danger, you do whatever it takes to save them. If your friend goes missing, you scream, you cry, and you flip the world upside down to find them. But Nolan's 3 friends did none of that. What they did after returning to the mainland was a direct slap in the face to the word friendship, a level of sheer coldness that would outrage anyone with a conscience. 24 hours of horror and the erased footprints. When the boat docked without Nolan, what did these 3 do? They didn't run to find rescue teams. They didn't scream for help. They casually went home, showered, and went about their day completely normally, as if they had just finished a fun day out. Absolutely 0 calls to the police. Not a single signal sent to the Coast Guard. That chilling silence dragged on from dusk all the way until 11 p.m. on July 4th. Ask yourself this. If it was an accidental drowning, why hide it? Why wait until midnight to say a word? What was that delay used for? To clean up the scene? To get their stories straight and agree on a lie? Or to wait for the tide to wash away any trace of foul play? Suspicion from the victim's family grew even stronger when witnesses reportedly spotted the group together at a local diner on the morning of July 5th. While Nolan's family was searching for information about their son in a state of panic, the group he went with did not help with the search or actively cooperate with the family from the start. Instead, their secretive behavior dodging the media and quickly seeking legal counsel hiring lawyers through their families built a wall of silence around the case. While the witness testimonies remain hazy, the digital data recovered from Nolan Wells' phone provides the most solid objective clues. The phone that talks and the digital footprints. When she couldn't get a hold of Nolan, his mother used tracking apps including Life 360 and Snapchat to locate her son. The tracking results showed a bizarre contradiction. Life 360 showed the device was stationary on the mainland. Snapchat, however, pinged at a completely different coordinate. Following the tracking signals, Nolan's mother went directly to the house of one of the boys on the boat. There, after repeated demands from Nolan's family, his mobile device was finally handed over. The legal question here is, why was a phone belonging to a person missing on an island brought back to the mainland by someone else and kept instead of being immediately handed over to investigators or the family? After recovering the phone, Nolan's family discovered that his entire Snapchat history and messages from July 4th had been strangely wiped clean. For a teenager who regularly used social media, like Nolan having zero updates throughout the entire trip makes no sense. More importantly, a short audio clip found on the device recorded Nolan's voice before he disappeared, saying, "Give me my freaking phone." This detail is not just a minor teenage squabble. Analyzing this from a legal perspective, former Judge Carlos Moore asserted, "This is evidence of illegal deprivation of property. Under the law, when an individual keeps someone else's communication device without the owner's consent, that act is a violation of the law." Even more telling is the specific location, a secluded, completely uninhabited barrier island with no residents. That phone was Nolan's only lifeline to the outside world, or to call for help in an emergency. Depriving him of his phone in such an environment is equivalent to isolating the victim physically and digitally, putting him in extreme danger. This provides a rock-solid legal basis for law enforcement to issue arrest warrants for grand theft against those involved, which could then lay the groundwork to expand the investigation into more serious charges, like kidnapping or aggravated assault leading to death. Now we are entering the most suspicious part of this entire case. Lean in close, because this story is no longer just about the actions of the three friends on the boat. The case takes a massive turn when the adults step in cold, calculated figures with money power and local influence. The parents behind the wall of silence. Let's look back at the details shared publicly on social media. During an overnight trip with a group of teenagers on the wild, completely isolated Horn Island, a bizarre detail emerged: the presence of the mother of one of the three boys on the boat. A massive question arises. What on earth was she doing out on that remote island at that specific time? A youth camping trip off the coast is clearly not the place for a middle-aged parent to show up and join the fun. From the professional perspective of someone with nearly a quarter of a century of experience in the legal field, former Judge Carlos Moore raised a shocking suspicion. Did this parent go to the island to conduct a coaching session, essentially feeding them statements, instructing the teens on how to handle law enforcement, or even finding ways to clean up evidence before authorities officially stepped in? If this suspicion is correct, the presence of an adult at the wild island scene at that moment was no coincidence, but a calculated move to control the situation. Normally, when a tragic drowning accident occurs, the natural psychological reaction of best friends would be panic grief, staying by the shore and cooperating fully with rescue teams to find the missing person. But in the case of Nolan Wells, the timeline shows the exact opposite. Immediately after the incident, and even before Nolan's body was found in the water, the teens and their families quickly set up an ironclad legal defense. They held family meetings, swiftly hired private lawyers, invoked their right to remain silent, and absolutely refused to provide information or answer questions from the media and the victim's family. Such a strategic and cold defense prep is highly unlikely to be an impulsive decision made by teenagers under the age of 18. It could only come from the strategic direction of parents who deeply understand how the justice system works. Parents who chose to protect their own kids at all costs, rather than seek the truth for a lost life. It is this wall of silence built on money and local influence that is currently the biggest obstacle making the search for justice for Nolan Wells' family harder than ever. When following the developments of this entire case, what troubles the public and legal experts the most isn't just the contradictions in the statements, but how the local law enforcement system operated in the early stages. It raises a massive question about fairness and equality under the law, the harsh truth about justice in Mississippi. From the perspective of someone who spent over 6 years on the bench as a judge in Mississippi, attorney Carlos Moore gave a very blunt assessment of how the case was handled. He made a highly critical hypothetical comparison to expose the gaps in the investigators' approach. If the roles in this case were reversed, meaning if Nolan Wells was the one who returned to the mainland safely, and the 3 white teens on the boat were the ones who mysteriously went missing on the wild island, would the investigation have moved this slowly? Real-world experience shows that in a reversed scenario, with a mountain of suspicious signs like keeping the victim's phone, wiping personal data, and delaying the rescue call for 24 hours, arrest warrants and investigative detentions would likely have been approved and executed within a single day. Yet the reality is the exact opposite. The local sheriff of Jackson County made a rather hasty statement in the early days, even before the body was thoroughly analyzed. At this time, no foul play is suspected. This statement was criticized by experts as premature and careless. In a criminal investigation, before official autopsy results are returned by independent forensic agencies, drawing conclusions that rule out foul play can inadvertently slow down evidence gathering, overshadowing the severity of clear prior offenses, like grand theft or failure to render aid to a person in danger. The developments in the Nolan Wells case have inadvertently reopened some of the darkest memories in Mississippi's judicial history. Many have drawn parallels between this incident and shocking racial cases of the past, where Black victims faced immense injustice due to cover-ups or indifference from local public authorities. Even in today's modern society, this case stands as a troubling testament to a harsh reality. When the individuals involved hold financial advantages, broad social connections, or belong to locally influential groups, they tend to receive the maximum level of legal protection. Authorities often choose an extremely cautious, step-by-step approach, demanding incredibly strict procedural steps before taking any legal action. This selective caution creates a deep sense of inequality for the victim's family and the watching community. It highlights a bleak reality. For justice to be fully and transparently served for the marginalized, their families must often rely on massive pressure from public opinion mass media and the intervention of federal civil rights organizations, rather than just waiting on the local judicial system to act on its own. The game changer from Tyler Perry and the declaration of war, just as Nolan Wells' case was hitting a dead end stifled by the chilling silence of the witnesses, the baffling caution of the Jackson County investigators, and a no foul play narrative pushed way too early to close the file, a historic turning point emerged. If the forces behind that wall of silence thought money, local connections, and Mississippi influence could quiet the cries for justice from a vulnerable Black family, they were dead wrong. They forgot that in this digital age, justice isn't decided solely inside cramped offices in Jackson County. The sudden, powerful intervention of Tyler Perry, billionaire filmmaker, and one of the most powerful icons in Hollywood entertainment, hit like a lightning bolt, shattering any attempts to sweep this case under the rug. Tyler Perry stepping into this legal battle completely changed the game, elevating a local criminal case into a national spotlight across the United States. For a family physically and financially drained, like Nolan's, Tyler Perry's backing was the ultimate lifeline. In small towns, suspicious cases can easily be buried if local press access is limited or public narrative is controlled. But with Tyler Perry speaking out on platforms reaching tens of millions, Nolan Wells' case was instantly picked up by the biggest news outlets in America, from CNN and MSNBC to primetime shows. This media power forced local officials to realize one thing: every single action statement and move they make in this case is now under the microscope of millions of educated, influential people worldwide. They no longer have the luxury of looking the other way or rushing through a sloppy investigation. One of the biggest hurdles for vulnerable families fighting wealthy opponents is the sheer cost of chasing justice. Legal fees, private investigators, and especially independent autopsies usually carry massive price tags far beyond their reach. Knowing this, Tyler Perry built an unbreakable financial shield. He stepped up to fund the entire cost for top independent forensic experts to conduct a second autopsy running parallel to the state's. This was a strategic move because scientific data doesn't lie and cannot be bought. If the independent autopsy finds any signs of blunt force trauma injuries or struggle before Nolan entered the water, the local police's accidental drowning narrative will completely fall apart. The ultimate and most critical goal in the strategy of Tyler Perry and former Judge Carlos Moore is not just to pressure the Jackson County Police, but to strip away the protective shield of the local judicial system by bringing federal law enforcement into the picture. Based on clear civil rights violations and suspicions of racial bias in the investigation process, Tyler Perry and civil rights organizations are building immense pressure to force the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, to formally open an independent investigation. Once the FBI and the federal DOJ step in, the entire playing field will be reset from scratch. Federal investigators have supreme authority to subpoena carriers and tech giants like Snapchat, Apple, or Google to hand over all cloud data, GPS tracking, and deleted messages of all involved individuals without needing approval from local judges. Any act of lying, coaching, destroying evidence, or intentionally falsifying records by anyone, whether they are suspects, parents, or even local police officers, will be classified as a federal criminal offense, carrying extremely severe penalties. This is the ultimate game changer, pulling the case entirely out of the reach of money and family connections in Mississippi, restoring a purely transparent, law-abiding, and unbiased investigative environment. A powerful message to those hiding in the shadows. The campaign to demand justice for Nolan Wells, led by Tyler Perry and backed by the expert voice of former Judge Carlos Moore, is not just a legal action. It is a direct, fierce declaration of war against those trying to hide behind the wall of silence. That message rings out loud and clear, shattering any illusion that power can cover up a lost life. You might use money to buy temporary silence in Jackson County. You might use influence to stage a clumsy cover-up of an accident on a wild island. But remember this: you can never hide the truth from the entire world. The era of cases being buried in the dark of prejudice and privilege is over. With scientific truth, the power of federal justice, and the unity of millions of people watching your play of lies has officially come to an end. Anyone who had a hand in this crime, anyone who enabled, covered up, or conspired, get ready to face a jury of your peers. Justice will be served, and no one is above the law. Tyler Perry's intervention has ignited a flame of hope. It proves one thing: when the community refuses to stay silent, and when people with influence choose to stand on the side of what is right, no matter how strong the wall of protection is, it will eventually crumble under the light of justice. Nolan Wells' case will undoubtedly be pushed until the absolute truth is revealed. My friend's Nolan Wells deserves an answer. His family is enduring heart-wrenching pain while watching those involved casually walk free. We cannot allow the name Nolan Wells to become another Emmett Till of the 21st century. Who do you think is really pulling the strings and scripting the silence of Nolan's friends? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like, share this video widely, and use the hashtag Justice for Nolan Wells to join Tyler Perry and Judge Carlos Moore in demanding justice. I'll see you in the next update video as soon as the independent autopsy results are in. Some
opinions expressed in this video may be subjective and reflect the content creator's perspective at the time of production. They should not be interpreted as objective facts or official positions. From the stage to the big screen, their influence is undeniable. Thank you for watching this tribute. If you enjoyed this walk through history, leave a like and subscribe to the Silent Legends archives. This video specifically recommended for you reveals a truth that few people talk about. Watch it now to see the full picture. Take care of yourselves